Hi folks, and welcome back to Quarantine According to Eddie. It is the 21st of April, it's nearly 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is going to be another Motorcycle Enquiries special, because I got such a positive response from the first one. Thank you everyone who got in touch, I was really taken aback by it. So this one's another one for all of you who are interested in that side of it. The big question that was coming up was, okay, so now we know a bit about the motorcycles themselves, but how do you keep them running? You know, how do you maintain them? That kind of side as well, the more mechanical side. So that's what this video is going to be about. So motorcycles are actually pretty simple things in terms of the mechanics, how they work and how to maintain them. They are basically an engine where your power is created, a gearbox where the power is changed into either low speed but a lot of torque, which is turning power, or higher speed but lower torque. So it depends if you're going slowly up hills or whether you know that's what the gearbox is there for basically. And then it's connected via normally a chain, but it can be a belt or it can be a shaft, either way connected in some way to a rear wheel. So that's where all of your power is coming from. Up at the front you've got handlebars to steer and another wheel to direct you. It really is that simple. So in terms of maintenance, it's all very accessible. As you can see, it's all very open on most motorcycles, and there isn't too much to look for. So if you're looking for a project to get into something mechanical, or if you're thinking about a form of transport that you can look after yourself but you're something of a novice, they really are quite manageable. So, what sort of things do you need to know, and what do you need to look for? So, motorcycles do need maintaining. They are performance machines. Compared to cars, you need to do more to them. But it's quite simple. The most important thing to remember is bolt. B-O-L-T. Brakes. Check that they work. Oil, keep that topped up. Lights, check the bulbs, and tyres. They are the most important aspects. So let's go through them. Brakes. You can check them by squeezing the brakes. The cables need a bit of oil dripping into them. That needs to be done quite regularly, like you know, I tend to do it once a month. Oil. You need to put oil in the engines and you need to check them. Engine oil needs replacing at least once every 6 months. You need to change the oil filter as well. Workshop manuals will tell you how to do it. It's not too difficult on most simple single-cylinder motorcycles or even bigger motorcycles, but it needs doing. You drain the oil out of the plugs at the bottom on this motorcycle. Let's see if we can find them. There we go. You can see those bolts in the bottom. Oil drains out of there, and then you fill it back up through there. Half-hour job. Really is simple. Needs doing. You also need to put oil in the gearbox casing, although more modern motorcycles share engine and gearbox oil, but there are some that still use separate oils, so you have to check that. Keep everything oiled and it'll keep them happy. Honestly, it's the best way to keep the rest of the bike from going wrong. Lights. Very simple to check. All you need to do is point it to the wall in a dark space and turn the lights on, see if they work. You can check the indicators in a similar way, turn them on, just have a look around. Brakes, you can get someone to help you, but what you can do is sit on the bike, squeeze the brakes, press the back brake as well, and just look behind you. Look to see whether anything lights up at the back. Tyres. Don't forget, this patch of rubber is everything in terms of your safety. You can have as much power, as much brakes, as you like, but this is what connects you to the road. So check them. Doesn't take long to do, but spin them round and check them. Make sure that there are no cracks, no damage, make sure there's enough tread, make sure they're inflated as well. Workshop manuals tell you what you need. Honestly, it's worth buying a workshop manual, even if just for the tyre pressures and the type of oil that needs to go in. It's B-O-L-T. You could also add on S, which is spark plug, but that's more optional. I change my spark plugs when I change my oil, but the spark plug is what creates the bang, it's what creates the power. It's worth doing. Other extra things you need to keep an eye on are battery. Make sure that's charged up, so a battery charger is worth investing in. Trust me, so many problems can come from a flat battery. Things that seem like electrical problems that could be a complete nightmare. You put a new battery on and everything's fine. Fuel as well. Fuel and air is mixed in a carburettor for most bikes, although more modern ones have got fuel injection. Always turn your fuel off when you're not running the bike, because otherwise the carburetors fill up, fuel leaks, it goes bad. There's just loads of problems that you can have. So, you know. The other thing to check is your chain. So down here, make sure that the chain isn't too loose. Make sure it's well lubricated. You can get specific chain lubricant. Don't use WD-40. For heaven's sake, don't use WD-40. That is really bad because it actually takes all the oil off stuff. WD-40 is a degreaser. What you need is something that's going to stick. You can get specific chain lubricants for that. It's also worth checking the sprocket that the chain goes onto as well. So the teeth, let's see if I can reach them, down here. Make sure that they're still in good condition, that it's not too worn. It's also worth checking the horn. Whenever I start the bike up and let it warm up a little bit, because it's on older bikes in particular, you do need to let them warm up. I'd warm up any machine, personally. But I check my lights, my indicators, and my horn. Another thing that's worth doing while the bike's running is check steering. See if you can move the bars from left to right fully, that nothing's getting in the way. And also see if the engine starts to rev if you move it around. That could suggest your throttle cable's caught, and you do not want your throttle cable to suddenly snatch and the engine to pick up while you're riding. I suppose one other thing, if you've got spokes like this, so rather than having solid wheels like this one here, if you've got spokes, they should ping. A nice ping means that they're tight. If they go thud, they're a dud, and they need to be tightened or replaced. You can do it yourself, or you can get a mechanic to do it. How do you check everything nice and simply? Because I did just tell you a load of stuff there. And you know, you don't want to be doing massive long checks every morning. So, here's what you can do. Grab your front brake. Release it. See if the bike will roll. Okay, so it's in neutral. That's good. Can you hear the chain clattering at all? I mean, normally I'd move a bit further than this, but for demonstration. Grab the front brake again, and then give the bounce back and forward. Yep, brake's holding. Spin to one side. Spin to the other side. Yep, nothing felt loose, everything felt good. I'm going to put the back brake on, do the same. Okay, front suspension works as well. Yeah, all feels pretty good. If you had the ignition on, you could check all the lights and make sure that the brake lights were doing what they needed to at the same time. It's a really quick manoeuvre. So that was stage one, giving the bike a bit of a shake. Then, if you've got spokes, get a foot pump and go. Just sweep it along the spokes. Or, if it's got a rubber end like this, you can use a spanner. But just gently run it all the way around all the spokes. Make sure that they ping rather than thud. And finally, just before you ride away, or fire at the bike, whichever way, have a look on the floor. underneath the bike. Look for any oil leaks, because you've got to check your oil, make sure it's all topped up, but as long as nothing's leaked out overnight, it's probably going to be generally fine. But you know, it's worth checking anyway. Check the dipstick. Now I know how much this bike leaks. It does leak a little bit, but it's because it's an old British bike. I'm used to that. If I saw any more oil than that, I'd be worried. So this old BSA is a 2-stroke, and the maintenance is slightly different. Because you've got fuel and air mixed in with engine oil, the engine only gets lubrication if there's fuel and oil mixed together. So you don't have to change the engine oil. Bonus. I mean, you might still have to change the transmission oil, but you don't have to change the engine oil. However, the downside is if you forget to put oil in that fuel tank, if you forget to mix it, or if you mix the wrong proportions, then there won't be enough oil, the engine won't have enough lubrication, and it can seize solid. The whole thing just jams up because the metal essentially melts together. At that point, you're going to have a bad day because the whole engine will either tear itself to pieces or just stop. So you've got to make sure there's enough oil in there. But if you put too much oil in, it makes the engine run too hot because it runs with a condition called lean burning. So you've got to get the proportions of oil and fuel exactly right. You need a workshop manual for that. Spot the theme. 2-strokes also, you need to do more maintenance to them. They just need more maintenance. If you've got a 4-stroke Honda engine, I use Honda as an example because they are so reliable, you just need to change the oil every 6 months and the thing will just run and run and run. 2-strokes, you need to take the heads off, you need to take the cylinders off and the exhausts off and clean them, maintain them. The pistons wear out faster because they're doing a lot more work. So you have to do a lot of maintenance on them. And so 2-strokes, although they're very simple, do require a lot of maintenance. And because if anything does go wrong, the downside of them being simple is if one thing goes wrong, that's it. But they are quite reliable, if you've got fuel and oil in the tank, and if you've got a spark going to the spark plug, they should run. But you need to tune them carefully. You have to make sure there's enough fuel and enough fuel and oil getting in. Otherwise, you can completely destroy your engine. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video on the sort of the maintenance and the mechanical aspect of motorcycles. Obviously, it was aimed at those people who are interested in motorcycles. I mean, if you're still watching at this point, then hey, thanks for watching. But I will be producing some more content that's perhaps a bit more universally accessible. But if you've got any questions or comments, obviously let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you next time.